Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast, and welcome to your AEW Dynamite post show. And man, there is a lot to talk about in today's episode. We had some news coming out of Dynamite last night, pretty much pertaining to Revolution. Solid build, man. I would say, first and foremost, the main event scene right now in AEW is red hot. We will talk more about that in today's episode as well. I also got news as well of a certain AEW superstar that's been there literally since day one, a legend, if you will, in AEW, that seemingly was on his way out, but looks like AEW is going to be keeping this certain superstar around maybe for another year. We'll talk more about that, rumors and speculation with this certain superstar in AEW in today's episode as well, man. But let's get into the episode. We start off tonight with a Continental title eliminator matchup. It is Jon Moxley taking on Mark Davis from the Don Callis family. Now, I thought this was a decent match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Moxley and Davis, with Davis keeping the pace of the match. Davis then is on the outside with Moxley. He goes to hit Moxley. Moxley then gets out of the way, and then Davis ends up hitting the ring post. This ultimately caused Davis' hand to be busted wide open and is bleeding all over the place. And Moxley then goes after Davis' injured hand. Moxley and Davis then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Davis hitting a step-up enziguri on Jon Moxley. Moxley then gets up, hits a cutter on Mark Davis, but Davis gets up, hits a devastating powerbomb on Jon Moxley for a near fall. Moxley tries to get up, get some offense in by hitting a foot stomp on Davis, followed by Moxley applying a bulldog choke on Mark Davis. Referee sounds for the bell, and your winner of the match is Jon Moxley. Hats off to Jon Moxley for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have FTR coming out to the ring with Stokely Hathaway. Dax Harwood has a microphone. He talks about the Young Bucks. He also mentions that the Bucks are sitting in second place. Hathaway then has the microphone, says that FTR are about fed up with the Young Bucks. Hathaway then mocks the Young Bucks and their family. After this, the Young Bucks show up in the ring. They end up attacking FTR. Hathaway is distracted. He doesn't realize the Young Bucks are behind him. Then the Young Bucks end up attacking Stokely Hathaway. Nick Jackson grabs the microphone and says, you know what? Why don't we have the Young Bucks versus FTR at Revolution for the AEW Tag Team titles? Some interesting stuff there from the Young Bucks. Moving on from that, we got a TBS title matchup. It is a fatal four-way. It is Marina Shafir versus Megan Bayne versus Mina Shirakawa versus TBS champion Willow Nightingale. The match itself, I thought, was a good match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Marina, Megan Bayne, Mina Shirakawa, and Nightingale, with Willow keeping the pace of the match. Willow then hits a senton off the apron to the outside. Megan Bayne hits a hurricanrana off the top rope as well. Mina Shirakawa then hits a step-up enziguri, but Willow hits a spine buster on everyone in the middle of the ring. Nightingale and Bayne both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Willow Nightingale hitting a Death Valley driver in the middle of the ring. Marina and Megan Bayne both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Megan Bayne hitting a powerbomb on Marina onto the timekeeper's table on the outside. Nightingale then hits an avalanche German suplex off the top rope. Mina Shirakawa then hits a spinning back fist in the middle of the ring, but Mina goes for a figure four leg lock on Willow, but Willow counters it into a roll-up, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match, and still TBS champion, is Willow Nightingale. Hats off to Willow Nightingale for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have a face-to-face between new number one contender Adam Page and current AEW World Champion MJF. MJF and Adam Page come out to the microphone, but MJF has the microphone first. MJF says that he hates everything about Page. Everything about him. MJF then says Page is not on his level. MJF also says that what he hates the most about Page is that Page has 2 wins over him. MJF then says that Page fell short under pressure in his title reign. MJF then wants to end Adam Page at Revolution. Page then grabs the microphone. He talks about beating MJF twice. He also mocks MJF. Page says that he hates MJF because MJF reminds him of himself. Page then says that him and MJF always needed the AEW title. But then Page says that in their matchup at Revolution, it can't be a normal match. Page then asks the fans what kind of match they want for Revolution. But Page says that without them having a normal match, Page says it doesn't if he doesn't win, he will never challenge for the AEW title again. Interesting stuff there from Adam Page. MJF then quickly agrees, but Page then tells MJF that he wants a match at Revolution with MJF as a Texas death match for the AEW World title. But MJF then tells Adam Page that he's going to take some time to pick the stipulation for their match. So some interesting stuff there between Adam Page and MJF. Moving on from that, we got a tag team matchup. It is Orange Cassidy teaming up with Ishii to take on Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors. I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between both teams with Orange Cassidy and Ishii keeping the pace of the match. Gabe Kidd hits an exploder suplex on Orange Cassidy on the outside. Gabe Kidd and Ishii both exchange chops in the middle of the ring. Clark Connors then hits a power slam in the middle of the ring, but Darby Allin comes out of nowhere and attacks Gabe Kidd. This allowed Orange Cassidy to hit an orange punch on Clark Connors, and Ishii ends up hitting a devastating brainbuster in the middle of the ring, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are Orange Cassidy and Ishii. Hats off to Orange Cassidy and Ishii for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have another tag team matchup. It is the debut of the Brawling Birds, Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor, taking on a bunch of jobbers. I thought it was an okay match. I wouldn't say glorified squash match, but the Brawling Birds were keeping the pace of the match with the Brawling Birds hitting the finish, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are the Brawling Birds. Hats off to the Brawling Birds for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's Kevin Knight versus the Beast Mortos, where if the Beast Mortos beats Kevin Knight, then LFI will get an opportunity at the Trios titles. The match itself, I thought, was a good match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Kevin Knight and the Beast Mortos, with Mortos keeping the pace of the match. Kevin Knight tries to get some offense in by hitting a Hurricane Rana on the Beast Mortos, but the Kevin Knight ends up hitting a UFO splash off the top rope, landing on the Beast Mortos, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Kevin Knight. Hats off to Kevin Knight for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our main event of AEW Dynamite. It is Kenny Omega versus Swerve Strickland, a glorified dream match. I thought it was a great match, man. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Omega and Swerve, with Omega and Swerve both exchanging in the middle of the ring. Omega then hits a Hurricane Rana, followed by Omega hitting a moonsault off the barricade to the outside, taking out Swerve Strickland. Omega then was trying to keep the pace of the match, with Omega hitting another moonsault on Swerve for a near fall, followed by a Snapdragon suplex. Omega then hits a running knee on Swerve for a near fall as well, followed by Omega hitting another Snapdragon on Swerve off the apron. Swerve then gets up, tries to get some offense in by hitting a suplex on Omega on the outside, followed by Swerve hitting a 450 off the top rope for a near fall. Omega then gets up, hits an avalanche Snapdragon suplex on Swerve for a near fall. Then Omega then goes for a V-trigger on Swerve but missed, and end up hitting referee Aubrey Edwards. Edwards is taken out. Swerve then quickly hits a house call. Prince Nana then is trying to wake up the referee, but Swerve then hits another Swerve Stomp, landing on the apron, followed by Swerve hitting another Swerve Stomp for a near fall. Omega then gets up, hits a Snapdragon, followed by a Poison Rana on Swerve Strickland. Omega then hits a V-trigger, but Swerve gets up, hits another house call on Omega. Swerve then ends up hitting the finish on Omega, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Swerve Strickland. After the match, you can see Swerve attacking Omega after the match. Swerve then was choking Omega with a chain, and then Swerve then takes Omega to the outside. He ends up putting Omega through the announce table, pretty much sending a message to Kenny Omega. A couple of things I want to talk about with you guys, man, when it pertains to AEW Dynamite before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, I'm liking the progression that we're getting from Dynamite. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Dynamite's back to what it once was in the first 3 years of its existence. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying, as a fan, is for the past 3 weeks from AEW Dynamite, the shows have progressively gotten better. Now, I'm not going to sit here and also say that last night's show was better than last week's show. But what I will say is this. The reason why these shows are starting to get better, mainly, is because the storyline progression that we're getting, obviously, with MJF being AEW World Champion, whether it's back and forth banner between MJF and Adam Page, or MJF Kenny Omega, MJF and Andrade, they've really been pushing this story or this narrative as who's going to be the new number one contender to MJF's world title. Whether it's Andrade, whether it's Brody King, Adam Page, Kenny Omega, or Swerve Strickland. So for the past about roughly 2-3 weeks now, we've been getting the storyline progression on who really wants to be the new number one contender to face MJF at Revolution, which we finally got that decision with Adam Page, and Page now will face off against MJF at Revolution for the AEW World title. Now, the main event I want to talk about a little bit. Now, a lot of people were probably confused on what the hell happened last night. There was a couple of things in this main event that happened last night that was very intriguing. Number one, it seems as if Kenny Omega seemingly has gotten written off TV, and Omega is not going to be present at AEW Revolution. Now, I made comments about this, I think, 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, stating about, or talking about Kenny Omega and why he won't be at Revolution. Kenny Omega already has some prior engagements that he already has to do, that he already has pretty much lined up, meaning that Kenny Omega will be over in Japan. No, not New Japan Pro Wrestling, or Pro Wrestling Noah, or any other Japanese professional wrestling promotion. Kenny Omega is going over to Japan to be a part of the, I believe it's a Street Fighter video game tournament convention that is taking place during the duration of Revolution, and he's pretty much, lined up for that. So he's already got some other engagements that he's already doing, which takes him out of the game for Revolution. So they had this matchup where Swerve ultimately writ Kenny Omega off television so Omega can go over to Japan and be a part of this Street Fighter tournament that he wants to be involved in. Now, when it comes to Swerve, there's a lot of people, which honestly, I don't understand this, to be honest with you. In my honest opinion, what we saw from Swerve Strickland last night was Swerve turning heel. And to be honest with you, am I against it? No. Swerve, to me, plays off better as a heel than he does a babyface, number one. I feel like it's more organic for Swerve to be a heel than to be a glorified babyface. I feel like it's not organic. I feel like it's a forced agenda. And Swerve is pretty much your prototypical babyface, or at least he's trying to be. It's kind of like the same situation with Randy Orton. Orton is better as a heel than he is a babyface. It feels organic for these certain individuals to be a heel rather than a babyface. It just fits like a glove. So for those people out there that's saying, oh, Swerve is not turning heel, dude, shut the fuck up. Swerve is turning heel. And to be honest with you, it not only intensifies Swerve as a top heel in the main event scene, but we're also talking about Swerve being a heel in the main event scene right now for AEW that is literally red hot. The main event scene right now is what's carrying this company to the future. The main event scene right now is what is getting people's eyeballs on AEW's product once again. Last night's show was sold out. It was a little bit over 3,000 people, which is not a lot of people compared to what they once had, but the show was sold out. Mainly because the main event scene, and a main event scene that I will also remind you that is not even at full capacity at the moment. We don't have the likes of Will Ospreay, we don't have the likes of Jay White, we don't have Adam Cole. There is some injuries that are also hindering AEW. Now, we've been getting vignettes of Will Ospreay, and it does seem as if Will Ospreay is on his way back. He's already visited AEW doctors to see if he can get medically cleared, hopefully before we get to All In. So, as far as the Swerve and Kenny Omega situation is concerned, Swerve did turn heel. I know some people are mentioning that, Adam Page and Swerve are going to reunite and form this tag team of heels to go up against the Young Bucks or FTR for the AEW Tag Team Championships. I'm going to be honest. I know before Adam Page was trying to get in the good graces of Swerve, and they had this little thing back and forth where Adam Page would come out to the ring with Swerve, and they were trying to, get on MJF's bad side, or let MJF know, like, hey, we're coming after the AEW World title. I'd rather see Page and Swerve go one-on-one than see them in a tag team, to be honest with you. And not for nothing, the reason why it's hard for me to believe that Adam Page will be teaming up with Swerve is for two reasons. One, there's more history of these guys, hating each other than rather being teammates, number one. Number two, a lot of the shit that Adam Page was talking about during the duration of this makeshift tournament going in to the crowd of new number one contenders, a lot of the shit that Adam Page was talking about was the friendship or alliance that he had one time with Kenny Omega when they were part of the Elite. And to me, you can write a story with this, with Adam Page going up against Swerve, because of what Swerve did last night to Kenny Omega. and the fact that Adam Page and Omega are good friends. They are former tag team champions, tag team partners, and obviously they are good friends with being a part of the Elite. So this could be something where Adam Page had saw what happened last night, and they could play off of this, and Omega being written off TV. I'm not sitting here saying that Swerve is going to have a match at Revolution. But what I am saying is this could be something that could really piss off Adam Page because of what Swerve did to Kenny Omega last night and got Page's attention. And after Page is done with MJF at Revolution, then Page is going to come to the forefront for his friend Kenny Omega and challenge Swerve Strickland, going into possibly Double or Nothing. That's just the vibe that I'm getting. I don't really want to see these guys be a tag team. I can give a shit less, to be honest with you. And I'm not sitting here saying that, they wouldn't intensify the tag team division. But to me, honestly, I'm tired of main event superstars that have known to been singles competitors join these makeshift tag teams that just doesn't work. Or I don't see that it's going to benefit anybody, which I will talk about here soon, because there was a main event star teaming up with another star to make this makeshift tag team, which I will talk about here in a little bit. But, as far as Swerve and Omega, to me, Swerve is turning heel. And I don't think it does anything bad to Swerve at all. I think it's going to intensify Swerve. I think a lot of people are going to get behind this heel turn for Swerve. And honestly, I think it's something that Swerve needed. Swerve is a better heel. It does nothing to Swerve in the main event scene. If anything, it intensifies Swerve as more of a top guy with him doing what he did last night to Kenny Omega. It puts Swerve on the map as far as being the top heel in the company. Now, a lot of people can say, well, we also got Andrade. Yeah, we do. We have Andrade. And if it's not for nothing, with all due respect to Adam Page, I made comments about this last week, that I would have rather had seen Andrade versus MJF at Revolution, but there is a story here between Page and MJF. And that story was pretty much written in stone last night. And the fact that MJF knows that Adam Page had beat him twice. So going into Revolution, I can tell you right now that I don't see Adam Page beating MJF at Revolution. Honestly, right now, I think MJF is going to hold on to this title until we get to All In. And they're going to save this matchup of MJF dropping the title to Will Ospreay at Wembley at All In. That's where I see the direction of where they're going as far as the main event scene is concerned. But again, with what Swerve did last night to Kenny Omega, this does open the door, possibly, for Adam Page to get some revenge for Kenny Omega against Swerve Strickland. And this opens up Pandora's box once again and reignites this rivalry between Adam Page and Swerve Strickland. And this could be a main event match going into Double or Nothing. It's a possibility. Because when Kenny Omega got his ass beat last night, we saw the likes of the Young Bucks helping out Kenny Omega, getting up from him, pretty much seemingly going headfirst through an announce table ringside. So this could set up something between maybe Swerve Strickland and Adam Page. I don't really want to see them being a tag team, to be honest with you. But for those people out there saying that Swerve's not going to turn heel, why would he not? How is it benefiting Swerve Strickland to be a babyface right now? Number one. Because it's not organic, number one. And number two, I think Swerve can use the change, to be honest with you. And the thing of it is, too, and call me a conspiracy theorist if you want to, but I just have this weird feeling. And it's just a feeling. It's just a conspiracy theory, but just hear me out. A couple weeks ago, we saw Prince Nana. I think it was during a backstage interview or segment with Renee Paquette, where you can see Prince Nana holding a towel in his hand. And on that towel, it said the Mogul Embassy. Now, this was a stable at one time that Swerve Strickland had in AEW. Is this something maybe where Swerve is going to turn heel and maybe try to revamp, with Prince Nana, the Mogul Embassy? It's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. So, again, it's just a conspiracy theory. But am I against Swerve Strickland trying to revamp the Mogul Embassy as a stable? No, I'm not. I'm not at all. Now, who would be in that stable? I have no idea. I have two names right now that would probably fit like a glove with Swerve Strickland if they decide to go heel, and that would be Private Party as a part of the Mogul Embassy. You can have Swerve as the headliner and have the Private Party and run the tag team division. It's just a thought, food for thought. I'm just saying it was a little ironic that after all this time we see Prince Nana recently have a towel in his hand that had the Mogul Embassy writing on it. So I don't know if they're trying to revamp that or do like a slow build towards possibly rebuilding that. But I'm all for it if that's the case. But it's just a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying it's going to happen or it's being rumored. But I'm just saying it is a conspiracy theory if you follow my drift. But I'm all for Swerve turning heel. Kenny Omega obviously got written off TV last night, like I mentioned a minute ago, because he's going to be over in Japan. He's already had prior engagements to go over to Japan. He will be a part of the Street Fighter video game tournament that's taking place over in Japan. So he will not be available at Revolution next week. So we're not going to see the likes of Kenny Omega. And most likely, we're probably not going to see the likes of Swerve Strickland either. So we'll see how it plays out. The other thing I want to talk about, obviously, too, the other big elephant in the room, or the other most important thing in the room, was MJF and Adam Page. I'm enjoying this build, bro. Last night, MJF and Page sold me on this match. You know, you can tell that both these guys hate each other. Both these guys want to be the top dog in AEW. Both of these guys have been day one talents for AEW. They've been there this entire time. You got one guy who, like MJF had quoted, the main character, and then you basically got the main villain with MJF. I mean, both these guys are pretty much almost seemingly tied to the hip when it pertains to the AEW World Championship. Now, the one interesting factor I would say in this is the comments that Adam Page made during this back and forth segment between himself and MJF, where Page himself said, and I quote, "If he cannot beat MJF at Revolution, Adam Page will never ask for another world title match opportunity against anybody. Not just MJF, but at all." This could seemingly backfire immensely with Adam Page. Where if MJF, which I have MJF beaten Adam Page at Revolution, then it begs the question, then if Page comes up short against MJF at Revolution, and with Page making these comments, then where does this leave Adam Page moving forward? Now again, this could open Adam Page being a part of a tag team. This also could possibility, like, I mentioned earlier, I know some people are saying, I wouldn't mind seeing Page team up with Swerve. Okay. But I'm also not against reuniting Adam Page and Kenny Omega and have them two go after the AEW tag team titles. That's another option that they could possibly facilitate, because the vibe I'm getting just with the Young Bucks, they're going back to the whole nostalgia act, the whole super kick party. They helped out Kenny Omega last night. Is this something where it's a slow burn till we get a reunion of the Elite, where it's the Bucks, it's Omega, and it's Adam Page? I'm just saying, there's a lot of variables that go into this. And like I said, they can play off of what happened last night with Adam Page when it pertains to what happened with Swerve Strickland and Kenny Omega. Because like I said, the entire time during this tournament, Adam Page had made it known that he is friends with Kenny Omega and that he wanted to have a match with Kenny Omega in the finals. But unfortunately, Omega came up short in his matchup against Andrade. So that match never happened. So maybe Page got wind of what happened to Kenny Omega last night and said, you know what? I'm going to get some revenge for my buddy Kenny Omega, and it's going to be Swerve Strickland and Adam Page, maybe at Double or Nothing. Kenny Omega comes back. I don't know, maybe we get a revamp of the Mogul Embassy, but we also get Adam Page reuniting with Kenny Omega, and they go after the AEW Tag Team titles because Adam Page had lost, and he can no longer challenge for the AEW World title. It's just a possibility. Just a food for thought. But I thought it was very interesting with the comments made from Adam Page, because it's a very tall-tale task to have that kind of, not stipulation, but a part of the stipulation of the match where if Page does lose, he will never be able to have the opportunity to challenge for the AEW World title throughout his duration of his career in AEW. It's a very tall-tale task, man. It's putting a lot of pressure on yourself in this matchup. But I don't see Adam Page beating MJF at Revolution. I just don't. Right now, you kind of have to feed the hot hand, and the hot hand right now is, of course, MJF. 100%. The other thing I want to talk about, too, and I'll get into the Brawling Birds here in a second. I want to talk about the TBS title scene, okay? I want to talk about this matchup that we had last night, the Fatal 4-Way matchup between Marina Shafir, Megan Bayne, Mina Shirakawa, and Willow Nightingale. I'm going to be honest, and I feel the same way how I feel about the title eliminator matches like we had last night, Open Dynamite between Jon Moxley and Mark Davis in a Continental title eliminator matchup. Number one, the eliminator matches are not needed. I can't stand them. The other thing, though, with the TBS title, I have all the respect in the world for Willow Nightingale. I think Willow is great. I think she's great for AEW. She's great for the women's roster for AEW, and she's done a fantastic job so far in the progression that she's done in AEW. So I want to get that out first and foremost. I am a big fan of Willow. I think Willow has had a lot of progression in AEW. I think she still has a very high ceiling. But my issue with Willow right now, and it's not just Willow. This goes for Willow. This will go for Adam Page. This goes for a lot of other talents when it pertains to championships. Willow does not need to be a double champion. She does not need to be one half of the AEW Women's Tag Team Champions as well as the TBS Women's Champion as well. Seemingly, she's holding 2/3 of the women's titles in AEW in a roster right now that is severely bloated. Willow should have dropped the belt last night. She could have given it to Megan Bayne. She could have give it to Mina Shirakawa. She doesn't need to hold 2 belts, bro. We already have a bloated roster as it is, and it makes no sense for any individual on that roster to hold 2 belts. The roster is severely bloated. Let's separate these titles. Let's not do double champions, and let's give some other talent on the roster an opportunity at some championship gold. I feel the same way if Adam Page is a trios champion and AEW World Champion. That does not need to happen. First and foremost, the trios titles are absolutely fucking worthless. There's no trios really in AEW. Those titles are fucking worthless. We don't need to see that. This roster is severely bloated with talent. Let's separate these titles. Let's spread these titles out to other individuals to get their names on the main roster, to get their names on TV, and spread out these titles, bro. I mean, AEW has like 8 or 9 titles right now for a company. It's crazy. Let's separate these titles. Let's spread these titles out and not have double champions. We do not need that. So if Willow would have lost last night, that TBS title, would I be against it? Absolutely not. And it's not taking anything away from Willow, but she does not need to be a double champion. We got that shit literally with Mercedes Moné, with all these other companies. We just don't need it, and nor does the fan base really give a rat's ass about it. We just don't need it. If she wants to be a women's tag team champions and teaming up with Harley Cameron, by all means, God bless. But it's either you're going to be the women's tag team champion or you're going to be the TBS champion. We don't need to see Willow holding 2 titles. Just like we don't need to see Adam Page holding the AEW World title and the goddamn AEW Trios titles. We do not need that. With the roster that they have right now that is seemingly increasing by the moment, there's enough people on this roster to facilitate other people having these titles and not having double champions. We do not need that. Hell, we had that with Okada, with the Continental title and the International title. We had that with Willow. We have that, possibly going to have that with Adam Page. We don't need that shit. We just don't need it. Let's separate these titles. Let's give other people on the roster an opportunity to have championship gold, and we go from there. It's the same way I feel about the title eliminator shit. We do not need it. It doesn't make the champion look good to take an L in a title eliminator matchup against an opponent, and then we get to the pay-per-view, whatever match happens next between those 2 individuals, just to have that guy that beat the champion lose again or lose and never gets crowned, a Continental Champion or an AEW World Champion. The Eliminator concept is fucking bullshit. It's bullshit. We don't need it. I think it's complete dog shit, and it's lazy-ass booking. Let's build a number 1 contender and crown a new number 1 contender for all these titles. We just got that now with Adam Page being a new number 1 contender for the AEW World title. Let's have that happen. You know what I'm saying? The other thing I want to talk about, too, is the Brawling Birds. They made their tag team debut last night. And in that tag team, we got Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor teaming up as the Brawling Birds last night, making their tag team debut. I'm going to be honest. This is another thing that I have an issue with. I'm tired of seeing main event talent, and somehow they want to be in a tag team with somebody else. Jamie Hayter should be in the conversation for a TBS title or the AEW World Championship. We're talking about a former AEW Women's Champion that seemingly AEW doesn't genuinely have an idea or plan for, except for putting her in a tag team with Alex Windsor. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Because not for nothing, why can't Jamie Hayter be in the main event scene or go after the TBS title or the AEW Women's Championship? No, we're going to put her in a tag team so she can face off against Willow and Harley Cameron for the AEW Women's Tag Team Championships, and honestly mean jack shit. Jamie Hayter should be in the main event scene. She should be a singles competitor going after either the TBS title or the AEW Women's Championship. I do not need to see her in a tag team with Alex Windsor. And it's not taking anything away from Alex Windsor. I think Windsor is great too. You know, she had opportunities at the TBS title. Why is Alex Windsor not in the conversation to also go after the TBS Women's Championship or the AEW Women's Championship? AEW just signed the Inspiration to AEW on a 3-year, multi-year deal. You know, a.k.a. the Iconics. I don't want to see makeshift tag teams put together, bro. We saw that shit with Mercedes Moné and Athena. We see it with now Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor. It's just not needed. Mina Shirakawa and Toni Storm, I mean, I get it, but we're talking about Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa as both singles competitors. I mean, Toni Storm, multi-time AEW Women's Champion. She doesn't need to be in a tag team. Just like she does not need to be in a tag team with Orange Cassidy. The conglomeration need to figure their own shit out, because Roderick Strong wasn't there last night, and Orange Cassidy ended up teaming up with Ishii from New Japan to have a tag team matchup against Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors last night. You know what I mean? Roderick Strong should be teaming up or be a singles competitor, but if he's going to be in a tag team, he needs to team up with Kyle O'Reilly, which I don't know. I'm assuming Kyle O'Reilly's injured, and that's why he hasn't been seen on AEW television. I don't know. But Strong, if he wants to be in a tag team, needs to be teaming up with Kyle O'Reilly, not Roderick Strong and Orange Cassidy and Ishii and all this other bullshit. We don't need to see it. You know, the other thing, too, obviously last night, you know, this was AEW after leaving Australia, and then news came out today that they had to change up a lot of shit about the show because of injuries and people not feeling well that were on the card for Grand Slam over in Australia. So we didn't see Kyle Fletcher, we didn't see Mark Briscoe. Statlander is injured. She's not medically cleared as well. But speaking of Statlander, we also saw another return last night with a certain individual who is now medically cleared to compete, and that is none other than Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa is now back in AEW. She is ready and cleared to go, and she's ready to compete. And it looks like we're going to see Thunder Rosa versus Julia Hart this weekend on Collision. So it's Thunder Rosa's first match back after she has now returned back to AEW. So we're going to see how that plays out. I talked about Jon Moxley and Mark Davis. Not a terrible match. I'm just not big on the concept of the title eliminators, to be honest with you. I think it's bullshit booking and lackadaisical booking. But the other thing I want to talk about quickly before I get the hell up out of here, which I mentioned in the kickoff of today's episode, was that a certain superstar that has been with AEW literally since day one of AEW's biggest superstars, who everybody, including myself, thought was on his way over to WWE. It looks like Tony Khan and AEW is stifling this certain individual from going over to WWE, with AEW freezing time onto this certain individual's contract. Now, that certain individual is none other than Chris Jericho. There was news that seemingly came out literally a day or two after everybody saw this whole box or crate, if you will, on Monday Night Raw that literally said, delivered to WWE, but do not open this crate until February 28th, 2026, which that date literally aligns itself up with the Elimination Chamber, which is also taking place February 28th, 2026. So myself and a lot of other content creators and a lot of fans also assumed, like myself, that, okay, hey, this might be Chris Jericho. Jericho might make his return to WWE. I know some people are saying, oh, that's not going to happen. You know, he's on tour, blah, 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 blah. But the reason also people pointed towards Jericho being a part of this box or crate is that Elimination Chamber is going to be in Chicago, Illinois, number one. And people are going to ask, well, what the hell is that going to do with anything? Well, if you guys go back in time with wrestling as far as I do, Chris Jericho, I believe, debuted with WWE way back in the day, around 1999, going into 2000, where Jericho showed up in Chicago, Illinois, where he made his elaborate debut for WWE at the time, or WWF. This was when Jericho left WCW, when he was in WCW, and then debuted for WWE. So, and this was also in Chicago, Illinois. So when this box or crate showed up, and knowing Elimination Chamber is going to be in Chicago, Illinois, it got a lot of people to think about, oh shit, this might be Chris Jericho that's coming into the WWE. So when that box or crate showed up on Monday Night Raw, like I said, I got a lot of people talking, oh, it could be Chris Jericho. And then seemingly 24 hours later, we have other people in the wrestling space put out this tweet stating that Tony Khan had froze Chris Jericho's contract for time taken off, which means when Jericho took some time off, that time that he took off is now frozen, meaning that Jericho is going to have to come back to AEW for that time that he took off. So what this ultimately means is that Jericho is not showing up in WWE anytime soon. With this time frozen on his contract, and what was already speculated and rumored, with AEW and Tony Khan most notably freezing this time on Jericho's contract, this ultimately means that, number one, Jericho is not going to be in WWE anytime soon, and he damn sure is not going to be a part of this year's WrestleMania, and he damn sure is not going to be a part of this year's Elimination Chamber taking place next week. So what this also means is that because Tony Khan and AEW froze time on his contract in AEW, this looks like Jericho is going to be sticking around AEW possibly for another 6 to 8 months, possibly a year with AEW. Now, I'm going to be honest. Number one, I think this is 100% petty from Tony Khan. We're talking about a guy in Chris Jericho, a guy who was by far one of the biggest acquisitions that AEW has gotten of all time. All time. We're talking about a guy that's been with WWE since 1999. Okay? And finally, left WWE and ended up joining AEW literally day one. He was in Jacksonville for their, I wouldn't say parade, but their, coming out party, if you will, as a promotion. In Jacksonville, Florida, you saw the Young Bucks. You saw other superstars make their appearance as well. Joey Janela was there, Britt Baker, Tony Khan, obviously. Pretty much making this announcement that AEW is a new promotion and, so on and so forth. But Chris Jericho was also a part of these festivities that day. Which, again, at that time, Jericho was the biggest acquisition that Tony Khan and AEW brought into the fold for AEW. He's an absolute legend. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer for sure. Has an elaborate, career, many accolades, many great matches, many great memories from the likes of Chris Jericho. So when Jericho came over to AEW, we got a lot of people talking. Like, holy shit, this is a big deal. And Jericho coming and showing up in AEW day one was a big fucking deal. It was a big deal. So much so that I think Chris Jericho ultimately helped AEW solidify a TV rights deal with Time Warner and Warner Media with TBS and TNT. Jericho, I know for a fact, helped solidify that TV rights deal. For sure. So, Jericho has been with AEW seemingly since the very beginning. We're talking 7 years. The guy has been with AEW, and he's had some great matches in AEW, some great memories, and also some great moments. Former AEW World Champion as well. Actually, the first ever AEW World Champion. So, Jericho has the accolades with AEW. So, and then we fast forward to the future. Jericho, he did his thing in AEW, and he took some time off. He left. He took some time off. And a lot of people knew that his contract was coming up early 2026. And once that came out to fruition, it got a lot of people talking. Okay, Jericho's going back to WWE. Jericho's going back to work with Triple H. He's going to work for WWE. He's going to be at WrestleMania in 2026. He's going to have his retirement tour. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And then we get the news that just came out a couple days ago where Tony Khan had stated that he had froze time on this guy's contract where he's not going over to WWE. And most notably, or most likely, he's going to be with AEW possibly for up to another year. To me, I just think it's petty. I think it's petty. We're talking about a guy that literally put AEW on the map. A guy who's an absolute legend. A guy that has worked his ass off in AEW. And he was a company guy for AEW. When all that shit popped off with CM Punk, Jericho was there to help, ease the deal. Him and obviously Tony Khan had a lot of talks. Jericho played a big, significant role backstage with talent. Jericho, Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson. These were some of the guys or some of the talent backstage that were trying to keep everything at status quo and at bay behind closed doors in AEW. So Jericho did play a significant role in the confines of AEW. I just think, in a way, it's a slap in the face from Tony Khan to Jericho for Tony Khan to block him from going to WWE, and obviously putting time on this guy's contract. This guy has given you all you want. So, and my thing is this too, bro. If Jericho has to work the remaining dates on this contract to get the hell away, we're talking about a guy who's roughly, 54, I think, 55 years old, or something like that, or close to it. And we're talking about a guy that literally saved this company. We're also talking about a guy that, without him, you might not have got a TV rights deal. And you want to freeze time on his contract. So basically, this is going to have Chris Jericho return back to AEW to facilitate these dates so he can eventually get the hell out of AEW. But you also have to remind yourself this, bro. Before Jericho took this time off, or this hiatus, there was people at AEW's floodgates every time Jericho was either on screen or on commentary telling Jericho and screaming it from the rooftops, and it's time to retire. And this was from the AEW fan base. This was from the AEW sickos that were begging for Jericho to retire because they got tired of seeing him and the shit was getting old. The whole learning tree experiment fell flat on its ass with Jericho and Big Bill and Brian Keith. Nobody gave a rat's ass about the learning tree. It was one of the worst concepts that Jericho ever came up with. It was a complete dog shit idea. So when Jericho took time off, nobody really seemingly gave a shit that Jericho was gone because people wanted him to retire when he was there. So what is it going to do with bringing this guy back into the fold, back into AEW to finish off these dates? When majority of the fan base, before he took that time off and took that hiatus, were begging for Jericho to fucking retire. What do you think's going to happen when Jericho comes back? Yeah, they might be happy there for a second. But if this guy's stuck in AEW for another 6 to 8 months or possibly a year, you think people are really going to legitimately give a shit? And on top of that, if Jericho does have to work these dates on the remainder of his contract, where the fuck are you putting Jericho on the main event scene that people are going to legitimately give a shit about? Honestly. You know what I mean? Where does Jericho fit the void or fill in the void of AEW? And the main event scene right now that, like I mentioned earlier in the show, is red hot right now. You got the likes of Swerve, Andrade, Kenny Omega, Adam Page, MJF, Brody King. And that's just to name a couple, bro, that are in the main event scene right now that are absolutely killing it right now in AEW. Like I said, this has probably been the best AEW product that we've seen in the past 3 fucking weeks over the past 2.5 years. So where does Jericho fill into that spot? And honestly, who is legitimately going to give a rat's ass about Chris Jericho returning back to AEW? What the fuck is he going to do? What is Jericho going to do if he has to work the remainder of these days on his contract? I just think it's petty from Tony Khan. I mean, this guy gave you everything that he had. This guy's an absolute legend, a first ballot Hall of Famer. And it's helped your company out a lot. You can't just say, you know what, thank you for your services, thank you for what you did for our company, and God bless and Godspeed. And give the guy what he wants. You know what I'm saying? This is not some just regular talent that you just picked up from the independents. This guy has been wrestling for almost 30 fucking years. You know what I mean? An absolute legend who's literally wrestled all over the goddamn place, from, New Japan to wrestling over in Canada, wrestling over in different promotions, wrestling for WCW, wrestling for ECW, and also wrestling for WWE. Jericho has literally done it all. And you can't give the guy the benefit of the doubt? What the fuck are you going to do with Jericho that's going to be holy shit moment? Honestly. And to me, call me crazy, but it's a little fucking ironic how AEW, after all this fucking time that Jericho's been off screen for seemingly almost a goddamn year, but we get to Monday Night Raw on Monday, and we see Adam Pearce backstage with this box or crate, for that matter, that literally says, delivered to WWE, but do not open until February 28, 2026, which is ultimately the Elimination Chamber date, coming up here soon. Which got a lot of people talking, oh, it's Chris Jericho, it's Chris Jericho. And literally 24 hours later, if that, Tony Khan puts out this comment, or all these other journalists out here in the wrestling space put out this tweet stating that, oh, Tony Khan had froze time on Jericho's contract. He's not going to be in this box or crate. He's going to possibly have another year left for AEW. Just a little fucking ironic, if you ask me, to be honest with you. And let's be real, bro. Tony Khan's going to do whatever he can not to put Chris Jericho over in WWE. Let's just be real. I just think it's a petty goddamn move from Tony Khan, bro. I really do. I really do. And hopefully, when it pertains to Jericho, bro, I don't really necessarily know what the fuck he's going to do in AEW. He's done it all. Like I said a minute ago, people, before he took that time off and took off with that hiatus, and took that sabbatical, bro, there was people at the fucking floodgates of AEW, the AEW sickos for that matter, yelling to Tony Khan, hey, it's time for Chris Jericho to hang him up. It's time for Jericho to retire. Then you want to bring this guy back because you froze time on his contract, which is ultimately going to require him to come back to finish out those dates, back to a fan base that was begging for this guy to fucking retire. What is it going to do for Jericho? And my thing is, even if you bring Jericho back, which most likely they will, what's going to be the direction for Jericho that's actually going to mean anything or people to give a shit? You know what I'm saying? I just feel like it's fucking petty. It's petty. You know what I mean? You also have Andrade putting out a tweet trying to recruit Rey Fenix back to AEW after all the shit that Phoenix went through with Tony Khan. He was in AEW purgatory, bro. Tony Khan put Rey Fenix through hell for Phoenix to get the fuck out of AEW. Now, is WWE doing a whole lot with fucking Rey Fenix? No. No, he just lost to Trick Williams on Friday. Rey Fenix has got more losses than he does wins. They don't know what the fuck to do with Rey Fenix. But do I want to see him back in AEW? Fuck no. Tony Khan dropped the ball with Rey Fenix. WWE needs to pull their head out of their asses and reunite the Lucha Bros. Even though I know Penta now is a new number one contender for the Intercontinental title, we need to push this narrative of reuniting the Lucha Bros here relatively soon. Because it's not doing jack shit for Rey Fenix. It's not. That's why Andrade reached out to Rey Fenix trying to recruit him back to the confines of AEW Dynamite. If I was Rey Fenix, I'd stay the fuck away. After all the shit you went through with Tony Khan, bro, I'd stay clear the hell away from AEW. 100%. They put you in AEW purgatory, bro. You couldn't do a goddamn thing. They wouldn't put you on Dynamite. They wouldn't put you on Collision. Hell, Rey Fenix couldn't even sell merch to make money or work independent dates because Tony Khan shut that shit down. Tony Khan can be very petty, bro. Very petty. If you guys don't notice by now, Tony Khan can be very petty. Look at the shit he's doing with Britt Baker. Look what the shit he did with Ricky Starks before he left. Rey Fenix. I mean, the list goes on, bro. He can be very petty. You know, especially at the time when CM Punk was there. If you were Team Punk, you better believe that your ass was going over to Guantanamo Bay, not doing shit, sitting on the goddamn sideline. Hell, he wouldn't even have your ass back in catering. He'd send your ass home. You can watch it from your couch, but you're not going to be here backstage in catering, eating my goddamn food. That's how petty that Tony Khan can get, bro. It's fucking insane. But besides all that, look, if Jericho comes back, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a bad addition to the roster. My issue with Jericho is what are you going to do with Jericho now when he's been off the scene all this time? If Jericho has to come back to finish out these dates with his time that was frozen on his contract, really, what are you going to do with Jericho that not only is going to be entertaining, interesting, or actually get the fans to want to give a shit about the likes of Chris Jericho? Number one. Two, right now the main event scene is red hot. There's no need for a Chris Jericho right now. We just had Swerve Strickland basically turn heel last night by beating the dog shit out of Kenny Omega. This can set up other storylines like I mentioned earlier with Adam Page and Swerve. They can run it back going into Double or Nothing in New York. There's a lot of ways that you can play off of this shit if they do it correctly. We don't need to see Swerve and Adam Page as a goddamn tag team. I can give a rat's ass about that shit. I don't want to see it. You know, and there's already rumors about with AEW that they have some talent making their way back, and Tony Khan and AEW kind of want to repackage these talents. Okay. Where's Jay White? Where's Will Ospreay? Where's Adam Cole? Where's Kyle O'Reilly? Where's Keith Lee? And my thing is this, bro. If you're going to freeze dates for contracts, Keith Lee ain't going a goddamn place. If that's the case, bro. Because Keith Lee has been out for, Christ, bro, it's got to be about 2 years by now since we've seen Keith Lee. So if he's freezing contracts for Jericho, you better believe that he's probably freezing Keith Lee's contract. Keith Lee's going to retire in AEW, bro. He ain't going over to WWE. Keith Lee he's done. You know what I mean? That's just the way that is. If Keith Lee wants to compete again, I'm sure his contract's probably locked due to injury. I'm sure of it. That's because how petty Tony Khan can be. You know what I mean? He's not going to let these guys walk. You know? So, I don't know. I mean, I will say this, too. Like I said, for the past few weeks, AEW has a little bit of a hot streak going. They're not bad episodes. I like the storyline progression that we're getting from MJF and this whole title picture, the new number one contender, whether it's Paige, Omega, Swerve, or Andrade. I like that storyline progression that we got in this little makeshift tournament to crown a new number one contender to MJF's AEW World title. So, I mean, for the past few weeks, AEW has been firing on a lot of good cylinders, and they have been red hot coming out the gate. And they're on a hot streak, bro, for the past 3 weeks. Hopefully they can continue to do this and build off of this going into more Dynamites and Collisions, and even the pay-per-view coming up for Revolution. You know, we did get the announcement as well that it will be Young Bucks versus FTR for the AEW World Tag Team titles at Revolution. Should be a hell of a match, but again, hopefully they can bring some more spotlight to the tag team division for AEW. Other thing, too, as far as tag team division is concerned, we also need this. Where the hell is Copeland and Cage? Hell, where's Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley? You know what I mean? Where's the Hurt Syndicate? You know what I'm saying? That's another tag team. The Acclaimed, another tag team. Austin and Colton Gunn, the Guns. What's going on with them? How bad is Colton Gunn's injury? You know what I'm saying? Like, if everybody was healthy and had a full bill of health right now, AEW would be a whole different echelon than what it has been for the past 2 years. For sure. And there's probably a lot of people that are patiently waiting for the return of Will Ospreay, myself included. But I think MJF is going to hold on to that belt until we get to Wembley, where Will Ospreay will beat MJF, and Will Ospreay will become the new AEW World Champion in Wembley over in England. So, again, we're going to see how it plays out, bro. I don't think last night was that bad. Obviously, things could have gotten better and still could get better. But I like the storyline progression we're getting in the main event scene. I do like the fact that AEW is possibly entertaining the idea of having Swerve Strickland turn heel. It shakes up the main event scene. And again, Swerve plays off as a better heel than he does a babyface. So it's going to be very telling to see what Swerve's going to do next. Moving forward, we got the return of Thunder Rosa last night. She is medically cleared, where Statlander is not medically cleared. And it looks like Thunder Rosa has a match against Julia Hart on Collision this weekend, so it should be an interesting match. Thunder Rosa's first match back since she has been gone. Should be one hell of a match. But again, you know, I don't think Dynamite last night was that bad. I think it was a decent show, and hopefully we can start getting more progression with these Dynamite episodes moving forward, man, because they got to continue this hot streak, because it's getting fans more intrigued about AEW Dynamite. I mean, hell, Dynamite last night was sold out with a little bit over 3,000 people in attendance. So, yeah, for most people it's not a lot, but it was definitely a sold-out show last night for AEW Dynamite. But with that being said, though, this is my review of AEW's Dynamite. I hope you guys are out there staying safe, be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.